I think if there was one thing I was going to say about these sessions and the pandemic is we're very fortunate that it's pushed us to offer these, and I think it's a great benefit for all the members. So just a couple of announcements. Again, I'm Corey Heiser, the current Heartland Association president, and remember that this meeting is being recorded, so just keep that in mind that it is being recorded. One thing is because we have enjoyed these educational sessions and feel like they're a great benefit for our members, we are going to try something kind of in addition to what we've had scheduled and as kind of a new idea, and we're going to call them halfy hours. So we're going to use the acronym for the Heartland Association of Fairs, Festival, and Events. And we are going to have one of those on December 17th at 7 p.m. Central Time. And really what that is just a time that we're going to schedule for our members to get together and visit. Trying to not have too much of an agenda. And that first one is going to be hosted by Brad Brumman from our board. So I'm hoping you can all join us then. And then we also have the next formal educational session will be Tuesday, January 19th at 7 p.m. And that is going to be about contracts following a pandemic, what changes have been made. So that should be good for both associates and fairs, festivals, and events to kind of see what we've got going on following the pandemic and what maybe a new normal looks like. But before we kind of focus on all of that, I do want to give a big thanks to Joel and Larry from Creative Community Promotions. They are sponsoring tonight's event. So want to give them a big thanks. And then Tara, I think you've got a video to highlight Creative Community Promotions, our sponsor for this evening. Maybe.
What y'all trying to do is a hardcore. We go there and magic in the air. We just fly. Gotta fly, gotta see, gotta be. How can take it? Just be there. Oh, what is this vibe? I want to hear this vibe. And I promise you, kid, I will get so much more than I get from you. I just haven't let you in. Change your mind. I'm taking my time, just moving along. You'll forget about me after I'm gone. And go get yourself some cheap sunglasses. We got it right here in the USA. And the only explanation I can find is the love that I've followed ever since you've been around. You say she thinks no one cares. She's good to me. Oh yeah. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good Boy, don't you ever play with guns. Hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, heart. Goodbye, heart. Sweet Mary Lou, I'm so in love with you. I'm in love with Mary Lou. Mary Lou. Raise your red banner, keep it together when you walk. Just take my mama's broken heart. So I guess I'm doing fine. 'Cause you only cross my mind. You better pray for me tonight. See the world in shape and saying it won't be long till you become just a little bit longer before I say goodbye. Gonna be the same face to face. It's just about time. Let's go. Your arms are coming up in the middle. We're back. Again, this is my fun. Here to let it back on.
All right, thanks again to Creative Community Promotions for sponsoring tonight. We do have another showcase that I'm going to call on Chris Tedesco from Town Event. He's got a act for this evening. So Chris, could you take it away for an intro for your showcasing event tonight?
Sure. Am I unmuted? Is that good?
You're great.
Hey, miss everybody. Would have been my 12th year. But here we are. We got we have a virtual thing. So Chris Tedesco, Downtown Events, and the band that we are showcasing tonight is Mickey Utley Band. And if you've been on a cruise on Royal Caribbean or Carnival or Norwegian in the last 10 years, good chance you might have seen these guys. They spend a lot of their winters, not this winter, of course, as one of the most requested bands on all the major cruise lines, casinos from Vegas to Atlantic City. And they're now getting more into a lot of the summertime festivals and fairs. And this is an experienced, multi-genre, fun party band. Great fit for having a good time with a lot of great music. So I'll let Mickey and the gang take it away, and miss you guys, and we'll see you next year.
Just sitting here in that porch, yard full of gears, mouth full of Copenhagen and a song. Nothing like a Saturday night racing towards the county line. Grab a pool full of beer from Joe's place before last call. That's how we do anything we say. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Drawing conclusions, they call it a problem, I call it a solution.
All right, big virtual round of applause for the Mickey Utley Band. Thanks, Chris Tedesco at Downtown Events. Make sure to get a hold of Chris at farmersmarketmusic@gmail.com. And again, thanks for the showcase. Now, on to our main attractions, steps to prepare for an open fair during a pandemic. And I wanted to welcome Peggy Besch from the South Dakota State Fair and Scott Wick from the Sioux Empire Fair. So if you can all welcome our two presenters for this evening. And I think, Peggy, we've asked that you're going to get us going to start. So take us away. Peggy, you're muted. You'll have to unmute. There you go.
There we go. So thanks, everyone. And thank you for asking me to present to you today. I hope I can provide you with some information that will be helpful in moving forward with your event planning. So I'll tell you a little bit about the South Dakota State Fair. We are a division of the Department of Agriculture, currently merging with the Department of Environment and Natural Resource. We answer to the Secretary of Ag and the Governor. We have a State Fair Commission that serves in an advisory capacity. We are a 5-day fair held the end of August or early September, always ending on Labor Day. And we have an average attendance between 200 and 210,000. So I want to set the stage. We're located in Huron, South Dakota, and it's a small rural community with a population of about 12,000. And the first 2 COVID-related deaths in South Dakota were Huron residents. One of them was a prominent member of our community and the state, serving in the House of Representatives, but he also served as a state fair manager back in the 70s. So everybody knew him, but also knew his niece, who was a school teacher, and she also died of COVID. So we were hit hard, very close, early, and so the community took heed, and our community leaders placed restrictions immediately. So to give you a little timeline, in April, we presented 4 different scenarios to our Secretary of Ag, all of which resulted in a net loss between 500,000 and 800,000. So ultimately, the recommendation to the governor was that we would cancel the fair. So mid-May, we met with the governor. We shared our concerns and she listened, and to her credit, she directed us to move forward. And her instructions were to be innovative and make modifications necessary. So while we were still fearful, she did give us a sense that she understood that there would be financial ramifications, right? But that our purpose was important, and that purpose is probably more important now than it's ever been. So while the governor didn't give us any specifics, we quickly realized that we needed to cancel our concerts because it didn't make any financial sense. We cut all our non-essential spending, so shirts, ribbons, plaques, meals, VIP programming. We eliminated a lot of programming that there was no way you could restrict, social distancing. And then also working with 4-H on their modifications to their programming. So the 3 greatest challenges that we experienced were staffing, accommodating COVID, and then being innovative. And so I'll touch on all 3 of those. So our number 1 challenge was staffing. So I think it's important to acknowledge for everyone, especially, if you're in a leadership role, to acknowledge and validate your team, about the tremendous amount of stress and anxiety that, we're all feeling, ourselves included. But we assured everyone that, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it together. So we quickly implemented safety protocols in our office and in our maintenance shop. And we sent out letters to staff and key partners acknowledging, this difficult times and that we're going to work on a strategy. And then retaining and recruiting staff was tough. Many of our workers fell into that high risk category, so we couldn't get commitments from them, and we can't wait forever to fill positions. On top of this, we usually get 15 to 20 inmates in the spring, and that didn't happen, so that added another level of stress to our maintenance team. And then some of our partners were questioning the decision to move forward, including our city and our county and our healthcare leaders, and they were vocal about it. So that made it that much more tougher to recruit people. So we had to implement some strategies to make people feel confident and that we were taking steps to keep them safe. So what did we do? We started having weekly meetings with the South Dakota Department of Health, the Beadle County COVID Task Force, and the medical community, just to open those lines of communication. We had several meetings with our Department of Corrections to establish protocols to have inmates, which we finally got in mid-July. We developed an employee contingency plan. So if one of our key personnel got sick, who's going to pick up the load? We had several meetings with our carnival provider to talk through protocols that they're going to implement. And I can tell you, there's some cool things that happened with our carnival and the carnivals across the state. But one of the biggest things was because we were having these regular conversations, we were able to utilize Crabtree Amusement, their HB2 workers that were down in Texas. So they're not even our carnival provider. But in 2 days, we literally shipped, I think we had somewhere between 15 and 20 of their workers here, and got housing accommodations on ground for them. And they were with us for a little over a month. So that was a real blessing. We also conducted a pre-fair orientation and educational training with all our employees and volunteers, and that included people from the Department of Health. And we did that both virtually and on site. So we explained the facts about COVID, we explained what they needed to know to protect themselves, and then we told them about the measures that we're taking to protect them. And that included, we provided face masks and face shields for anybody who wanted them, temp checks. We equipped every employee with hand sanitizer. We installed personal protective barriers in key areas throughout the fairgrounds. And then we even offered all employees and volunteers free COVID testing after the fair. So the second greatest challenge was just accommodating COVID, right? Implementing the health and safety measures. So signage, we had over 1,500 new signs throughout the grounds, and those were in English, Spanish, Korean. And that was just, reminding people to social distance, wear your mask, stay home, wash your hands, etc. We had signage from every local healthcare provider that listed their availability, their hours of operation, their contact information. Those were posted all over. And then we also had a COVID hotline that was available throughout the fair. We constructed permanent hand washing stations and purchased 150 portable hand sanitizing units, and those were placed at entrances to all of our facilities throughout the fairgrounds, the doors. And then social distancing. So we did provide ample opportunities for people to social distance by spreading out benches and picnic tables and stools. And then we also eliminated reserved seating in the grandstand so people could naturally spread out. But that being said, the closer we got to fair, we started changing our messaging, and we just started to say, we'd love to have you come, but if you're not comfortable, sit this fair out, because there's no way we could enforce social distancing. So if you're not comfortable, don't come out. We established cleaning and sanitizing protocols, and actually our Crabtree team that was here, they became our clean team. We established food vendor protocols, and then of course, working with our carnival, and they implemented their own protocols. And then the third biggest challenge was just thinking differently, right? So early on, we had made up our minds that we're going to cancel our fair. So when the governor told us to move forward and to be innovative, I'm not going to lie, it was hard. We had to change our mindset. Like, how do you have a fair without concerts? What? It was hard to get beyond that. But once we changed our mindset and our attitude and started planning, we started to think differently, and that enabled us to move forward. So there's three major outcomes. One, a positive attitude. People were looking for a means to get out and connect. They were looking for some summer fun, and I think fairs bring a sense of normalcy, and people were needing that. At the IFE conference earlier this week, one of the presenters said something along the lines that fairs instill a sense of stability and hope, and that's what people were craving, and that just created this incredible positive atmosphere throughout the week of the fair. The other major outcome was agriculture proved to be solid. I can tell you our regular locals and our area residents, they didn't show up. Who showed up was our livestock folks, and they showed up from across the surrounding states. We experienced a 10% increase in our livestock exhibitors, so that was a good thing to experience. And then the third outcome was just a lot of new fairgoers, right? I mean, they came from all across the United States. We talked to folks from New York, Ohio, Texas, Indiana. Again, people were just looking for that sense of normalcy and a place to connect, so they traveled here. And I firmly believe that some of those folks will return. And then in conclusion, I would say for fairs moving forward, if I had some pieces of advice for you, my 6 pieces of advice would be this. Learn and educate yourself. The IFE resource library was a tremendous resource for us, and there's a lot of things there if you haven't been on that on their library. The Zone 4 meetings and even these meetings with the Heartland Association. I participated in a ton of webinars, and I know Candy did too, with fairs across the United States. And so we were able to learn from each other and talk through things. And then even, you know, talking to your competitors or your allies, I think one of the things that was really cool that happened as a result of COVID is starting in the midsummer, the 4 largest fairs in South Dakota, we started holding bi-weekly and sometimes weekly conference calls. So Scott with the Sioux Empire Fair, Central States Fair, Brown County Fair, and ourselves, we were communicating more than we ever had. And I think that was pretty cool. My second advice would be communicate. Keep everyone informed. So your partners, your stakeholders, your vendors. We sent letters out to all our vendors just to try and ease some of that and tell them what we were doing. And then be honest with your staff and be honest and genuine. You know, this is scary stuff, and I think it's okay to say that. And it's okay to say, you know what, we don't have all the answers, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. And then, of course, you know, tell them what we're going to do to keep them safe. And the same applies with communicating with the general public. Tell them what you're doing. You know, and as I said, we got to a point where we just said, you know what, if you're not comfortable, then, you know, sit this fair out. The third piece of advice would be to collaborate. We collaborated with our Department of Health, with the medical community, with our carnival, with the other fairs, and that was an important piece. The fourth piece of advice would be to educate and train your team. I had several of our team members tell us that the best thing we did was to offer those pre-fair trainings and orientations that educated them about COVID and what we were doing. And I would suggest that you take it a step farther and offer that training to your exhibitors and your vendors and your partners, especially in this virtual world. It would be easy to do. The fifth thing would be mindset and attitude, right? As I mentioned earlier, we had concluded we weren't going to have a fair. And so we weren't operating in that mindset until the governor challenged us to move forward and be innovative. And it was a struggle, but it just goes to show you that the power of attitude and what you think is what you get, right? So once we changed our mindset, we were able to move forward and we made some really great things happen. And then lastly, my advice would be to take care of yourself. It sounds cliche, but if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else is going to. And our jobs are stressful enough. And then you add a pandemic on top of that, so it makes it really tough. So find things, you know, that work for you to de-stress. Mine is a minimum of 1 long walk a day with my dog. He doesn't talk back and he loves me unconditionally, and that works for me. And then of course, you know, an occasional glass of wine helps a lot too. So with that, feel free to, if I can be of help to anybody, I would love to, and I'd be happy to answer questions if time allows. So thank you again.
Yep. Thanks, Peggy. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to move along to Scott, and then we've got time kind of set aside at the end for questions for all of them. So if all of our participants could kind of jot questions down, and then at the end we can fire them away. But great information, Peggy. Thank you so much. And Scott, if you're ready to rock, we'll let you take the virtual stage.
All right, guys. Good evening, and Peggy, thank you for your presentation. That was great. Appreciate it very much. And I will reiterate that when we started meeting bi-weekly and sometimes weekly, it was great. Some people would think, well, what's new to talk about? But as this pandemic and recommendations changed virtually 3-4 times a day, we were all catching up on things, and it was great to meet that often. So I'm gonna take a little different approach and kind of take it as from, touch a little bit about our fair, but how we would approach an event. And we had always said and kept tried to keep what I call a positive media message, that we were never considering canceling. And the crazy thing is, when the media would call and say, well, everybody else is canceling, you guys are. I said, no, we're still on. We're still moving forward as planned. All of a sudden, the media didn't call as much. And we kept keeping them informed of what was going on. But I guess, we just didn't want to tap out early and send any message out there. We believe that once you use that terrible word cancel, people stop checking your website, stop checking to see what your progress is, what you're doing, and kind of write you off because of the mass amount of canceling across the nation and what was happening. So we wanted, you need to maintain a consistent message, starting with your board of directors. Stay in contact with your county and city government, state government, health officials. We had reached out to all of them and had some discussion on how we were moving forward. We also checked with our legal counsel about what to do, what not to do. One of the things that they really instilled in us is don't use words like guarantee, ensure. Make sure we're ensuring anybody's safety. Our messaging was that we were taking reasonable precautionary measures with our hand sanitizing, disinfecting, extra protocols for cleaning. We hired extra teams to clean high surface areas. We had 2 sets of teams that just wiped off with disinfectant the tops of garbage cans. And as we got closer to the fair, as the media was more involved, they were helping promote that messaging with our hand sanitizing stations and everything else that we were doing as far as those protocols were concerned. And we kept a marketing plan that was accommodating, adaptive, and we could change and communicate well as things kept changing, because every day you would hear something different from the CDC. And as we've seen it now, they've already changed some of their recommendations on quarantining and isolation based on different parameters. So as it continued to evolve and change, we were changing with it. And that's what you have to do is with your events. We also wanted to make sure that we were, staying in contact with all of our internal and external stakeholders. And we reached out to those at first as who is going to be participating in our fair. How different would our fair look if we had half of our food vendors that weren't going to participate? How would we lay that out? How would we make things look in the commercial building? So we were operating about an 85% full-blown fair. We had concerts. We had people in the grandstand, people in the pit. The food vendors were open, and we were very consistent, and I think people need to be consistent. We're a little different here in the Midwest than other parts of the country, but ours was, if you feel comfortable coming to the fair, we welcome you. But if you don't, we respect that too. You know what, you need to do what's best for your family and your individual self. So we maintained that consistency there, and we kept close contact, like I said, with our carnival, our food vendors, commercial, find out what the protocols are. And, we were not able to have 4-H participate at our fair because they were on restrictions. However, our open class livestock did very well, and we still had FFA. And you know what, use the vendors that are going to these events before they come to your event as free consultants. Ask them what the best practices they've experienced at these other events and these other fairs. What worked, what didn't, what would they do differently? I mean, keep in mind all the little things and put yourself in the position of the consumer, that when we get to next year's fair, we'll have had, some of us 13, 14, 50 months of dealing with events and the pandemic. Things as little as, should they really be having a ketchup and a mustard pump that's out there? Should everything be in an individual packet? And how they conduct themselves and how everything goes on there. But I think we need to keep the positive message going forward. And like I said, everything's different across the country. I talked to our insurance representative today, and he said what they're experiencing and finding is from state to state, county to county, and district to district, wherever they're at, everybody's situation is different. There's really high restrictions, really low restrictions. But I think you plan accordingly moving forward, stay positive, take the precautionary measures that you can, keep the communication going, keep all your stakeholders involved, and keep a consistent message that's going out there moving forward. And we, you partner up with the professionals to have the best show you can. And we had the same carnival at the 4 big fairs in South Dakota this year. Tremendous amount of calls from East and West Coast about how did you do it? But, let's face it, we're a little bit unique here in the Midwest on how we approach things. So, we're slated for a 10-day fair next year. We're pushing ahead as usual. We felt very, very lucky how we ended our fair. We had different scenarios as well. You have to look at the financial end. However, there's a fine line. We didn't want to make a decision if it came to that. If we were pressured by the government and different local agencies, then we would have made some changes. But we just move forward with a message that show up to the fair if you feel comfortable or if you want to do it. And we were lucky that we did quite well, although the alternative was paying back a whole bunch of deposits to everybody on the commercial end and the food vendor end. But other than that, Peggy touched base on a ton of things there, obviously with the protocols, and just keep the information going, stay up to date on local recommendations and what's going on, keep the communication open, keep the media on your side. And we provided all those opportunities for people to sanitize, and people saw us disinfecting. We retained all of our sponsors except for one. And, part of the external stakeholders is also reaching out to some businesses, major employers and schools to see if they're going to have any adverse messaging to their students or any of their staff that they're not allowed to attend your fair. Those are all things that come into play. We're unique that we don't have our fair during the school year. And we didn't have anybody major saying that you couldn't attend our fair. But I'm not taking up my whole amount of a lot of time, but Peggy had a lot of great points, and hopefully I added a little bit to it. But, take a deep breath, sit back, continue the communication with everybody else. Have a good plan with your board and your local and county and city governments and people you need to keep in contact with, and keep the messaging going and keep it positive. And we all hope and pray that nothing major happens where we have to change our trajectory on what we're doing for our fairs next year. But we're just staying positive, pushing forward. We feel that we've achieved a huge milestone by getting through the fair when we did the first week of August in the midst of everything going on. And we feel very confident moving forward. I mean, we've had many, many events. We've got a full slate through just right up till Christmas. We just came off a big motocross. We have a ranch rodeo. We've got other stuff going on, but we're just leaving it up to the folks to decide if they want to attend these events or not. But I think the big thing is you just take the reasonable precautionary measures, make sure it's well communicated as you move forward. I tried to squeak it out for the full 13 minutes, but that's all I got.
Awesome. Did a wonderful job providing some additional information. We're going to open up kind of the floor. If someone has a question for Scott or Peggy, we really appreciate them being here and trying to help each and every one of us learn more on how to operate our fair. So if someone's got a question, feel free to verbally ask it now. If you'd like to put it in the chat, we can go from there too. So whatever you're most comfortable with.
Corey, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Tim Stevens, Gielberg Entertainment. Hi, everybody. Question for both Peggy and Scott, if they could. I didn't see. I looked around for some follow-ups. I never did see anything as far as how attendance was affected. How you ended up doing with attendance numbers?
Yeah, Tim, this is Peggy. We actually were right where we projected. We were projecting we'd be down between 40 and 50%, and that's where we landed. Scott touched on this. Our schools and area schools told students to stay home, and that if they came to the fair, there would be consequences. So that coupled with 4-H programming, I mean, we were really fortunate that we were able to have 4-H programming. They made drastic reductions in how they structured that. So yeah, we felt the impact.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, we were more fortunate than some other folks. We were down right at 30% on attendance, and the carnival was down exactly 30% revenue wise. It was very odd. We had our Monday and Wednesday were actually better revenue days than any Monday or Wednesday the last 5 years. The carnival actually did better food wise. The 2 days that were good, but the days that were bad were really bad. And we were dark a couple nights in the grandstand too, just because we had Old Dominion transition to next year, and we had some people cancel because they didn't want to travel. Everybody else canceled. They'd have to fly in. They asked for more money. I said no. But overall, we were pretty pleased with the way we turned out. So yeah, we were down right at 30%, just a little over.
You know, the other thing I forgot to mention, we're a 5-day fair, and Monday was a complete rain out for us. Like, the carnival didn't even open. So, you know, that certainly played into the attendance numbers as well.
I have a quick question.
Hi, Robert.
Hey, how's it going? Robert Holmes, Spectrum Weather Insurance. Good to see everybody. It's also on attendance, and you probably don't have numbers for it because the fairs are a little bit different in the way they draw day by day. But did you get a sense that maybe the attendance was growing a little bit as each day of the fair progressed, as people maybe got the word out that they went to the fair and everything was going and they felt safe and they were telling other people? And did you get a sense of that at all?
You know, that typically happens for us anyway. You know, we start out, we have a preview night on Wednesday night, so that's slow. Thursday's better, Friday gets better, Saturday and Sunday are really our bread and butter days. And then Monday, you know, kind of takes a shift. And I'd say that's kind of how it still was for us this year.
Our numbers are very much pushed by, number one, by the carnival promotions, but probably more importantly, a lot of times is what we have in the grandstand. So we'll see numbers that mirror the desire to see whoever's in the band that night. When we were dark, obviously we were down, but what we saw that was pretty significant, I thought, was a shift in times during the day, afternoon, the demographics and the families coming out in the afternoon. We saw a lot of mass. We definitely saw a lot of people showing up earlier in the day when it wasn't quite as busy and they didn't have to stand in lines for food or rides or to go into the commercial building. And then, you know, then things are kind of a changeover when you get into the concert times after 5 o'clock. Then it was very, you know, for Cody Johnson, you know, we had 8,000 people, and it is what it is. We had some that were lighter, but some that were really good. But we did see a definite change daily in our afternoon traffic patterns. More families that came out and would partake in things earlier, and I believe because they just wanted to be there when it was less crowded.
Okay, this is Holly Russell. This might be a horrible question, but I'm just curious if there is anything, I can imagine when you're trying to plan an event during COVID that you could almost just drive yourself crazy trying to, you know, think of every single thing that you need to plan for and do. But was there anything that you felt that you implemented that was maybe not necessary once you kind of got going and the fair was happening?
You know, one of the tidbits I always tell people is we bought a ton in bulk, 55-gallon barrels of hand sanitizer. We started every day with, between us and the carnival, with over 80,000 doses, I call it. And it was a gel hand sanitizer. It took almost 14 gallons to fill our own day one. And our guys didn't even fill a gallon the rest of the fair every day. I'm not saying people didn't use hand sanitizer. I'm just saying that they didn't use ours. And it was at all the entrances. It was at all the gates. It was on all the rides. It was everywhere. And yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of people that had their little clip-on travel one with their diaper bag or on their purse, but I would have thought we would have been filling them nonstop. And that's just, if anybody wants to buy any, I've got a bunch. It's got a 2-year shelf life. Ours has aloe vera too. We actually marketed that you can sanitize and moisturize at the same time, but it didn't go over very well.
Yeah, I would echo that. We have a little mini warehouse down at our old office. We have an overkill of product too. In fact, we have shipped or loaned our units out to the Capitol for the upcoming legislative session, and we were able to stock them with a pretty good supply of hand sanitizer. So, yeah, you gotta chuckle. Yeah, I'd say that probably was more than anything. But I mean, honestly, the people that showed up, I would say for the most part, the vast majority were not concerned about social distancing, because there honestly wasn't a lot of social distancing going on. And there certainly wasn't in the livestock barns. We had one night a free show in our grandstand, family show, and that place was packed. I mean, there was, yeah, it was interesting to see. And we didn't have any reports. I mean, in fact, the Department of Health came out afterwards and said that there was not any cases confirmed that they could connect to the state fair. Now, I find that really hard to believe, but that's what they said. But we also followed, right, 4th of July with the President of the United States coming to South Dakota to see Mount Rushmore, followed by the Sturgis Rally, followed by, you know, Brown County Fair and Central States Fair and Scotts Fair and yeah, so, and school starting. So it'd be pretty hard to point it to the state fair.
One thing we've noticed with all of our other events is flea market, the arts and crafts, some of these other ones is definitely a different attitude just by watching people and their traffic and the amount of masks and the distancing and the vendors wearing masks. But if you're ag related or a cowboy or rodeo related, it doesn't matter. People are going to the events. So it's urban to rural. It's a mindset of it. But like we saw at that motocross last weekend, yeah, you walk into a world that you feel the pandemic is outside those walls, and inside it's business as usual. It'll be that way for the ranch rodeo this weekend, and then we got the Matt Triplett Invitational Bull Ride. It'll be the same way there. But agricultural livestock people seem to go about their daily business.
I'll just chime in with one other thing that we did that didn't have very much success. So I think a lot of, and I'm Candy Bradley with the South Dakota State Fair, but a lot of effort was put into teaming up with a vendor that offered social distancing opportunities for vendors and for the fairgoers. So if you were uncomfortable speaking to a vendor, it was through a text messaging service. So up on their vendor booth, there was a text message number or a phone number that you could text message, and the vendor was supposed to have preloaded information into the system. So it's a contactless way for you to receive information about that vendor. And then after the fair, that vendor would then be responsible for following up with you. That service had very, 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 very low interaction rates, like maybe 17 people text message throughout the whole fair. So I think that it was a really new service, but also B, I think that it also follows Scott's comments about being agriculturally based and those kind of things. I just think people are used to going and visiting with vendors, and it just wasn't their thing that they wanted to do. So I think if we had to do it again, we probably wouldn't invest in much time, but it's a learning lesson, and it was something we tried.
That gentleman met with us as well, and if I remember the component, there's actually a revenue share part of that if it was all successful. I mean, you weren't going to pay any electric bills even for a couple minutes with it, but I mean, there was a component of that. And it's kind of twofold. I mean, how much do we want to push not having human interaction? I mean, if it starts there, we've battled other fairs that have gotten rid of the old McDonald's barn and won't let people into their livestock exhibits, and we worry about E. coli and everything. I mean, we can't force ourselves into a bubble.
Good discussion so far. Anyone else got some more questions or maybe some of their own experience or feedback that they could offer? Well, I'm going to just give a big thanks again to both Peggy and Scott. I think there was a wealth of information. I give you both a lot of credit for operating fairs this year. It helps the entire industry, I think, when there's big fairs like that did host their events, and you guys did a great job. And like you said, there wasn't a big link to liability or to spreading of the COVID from them. So hats off for all the hard work. I know Candy more so we've talked, and Scott we've talked a lot, and I know you guys did a lot of due diligence behind the scenes, and that's what's awesome about the just the organization and the fair industry in general. And I think that's just kind of more to the point of why, as an organization, we're also trying to provide some opportunities for people to get together and visit and maybe bridge the gap, because I think I heard it in the IAFE last night too, and you guys said it tonight. There's been a lot of communication barriers that have gotten knocked down because of the pandemic. We reach out to maybe competitors and we try to learn from each other to make it better for everyone. And I just, like I said, I give you guys a big kudos for doing what you guys have done. Thanks again for tonight. And I think we've got one more showcase to kind of wrap up tonight, and that is Liz Gregory Talent Agency is going to present Jessica Lynn Witty, a fresh contemporary take on country music with female power at the forefront at a moment when the industry and the world is sorely ready for it. You can contact Liz Gregory at Liz Gregory Talent for booking, but we've got a showcase here from Jessica Lynn Witty. Tara, take it away. Tim, I'm not trying to get your job. Oh, Tara, we might have to unmute.
I consider myself to be a contemporary country. She wears a crazy on the outside. Hi, I'm Jessica Lynn Witty, and I'm a natural recording artist. I consider myself to be a contemporary country artist with a dash of classic country mixed in with sass and spunk. Since moving from Denmark to the US 10 years ago, I've opened for national acts like Trace Atkins and Dustin Lynch, and I took top honors at the Texaco Country Show. My 2020 award-winning single, Crazy on the Outside, charted in the top 20 on Play MPE. I'm represented by Liz Gregory talent, and I can't wait to bring my high-energy cake and country show to you. But it ain't me. You know I like my chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. Pair of jeans that fit just right. And the radio. But it's funny how it's the little things in life that mean the most. Not where you live or what you drive or the price tag on your clothes. There's no dollar sign on a piece of mind. I've come to know. So if you agree, have a drink with me and raise your glasses for a toast to a little bit of chillin' on the third row. Laid back, swerving like George Jones. Smoke rolling out the window. Ice cold beer sitting in the console. Memories lighting up in the headlights. Got me reminiscing on the good times. Turning off a real on driving that's driving easy street on good time. I've been a good girl, on the most way too long. I can't deny it, Lord, I feel a rebel coming on. Keep me straight, keep me level. I never watch the scrum go rebel. Now I'm coming on strong. Might be crazy, might be senseless. Don't get restless. Somebody help me, please. I feel real high. You guys ready? Here it comes. Get everything you got right now. Think up. Well done. Sit close and you can hear that loud jukebox playing in my ear. Ain't no man gonna change the way I think. I think I'll just stay here and turn around. She wears her crazy on the outside, and now it's there for all to see. Almost enough to make you tongue tied. Orange and blood instead of free. Now I know I couldn't tell she's too normal at first. So now you see it, I should believe she wears her crazy on the outside. Oh, they gotta make me. I went skydiving, I was Rocky Mountain Man, I was 2.7 seconds on a full man shoe. I'm up deeper and slow straighter. I gave forgiveness, I will deny it. I hope one day you'll get the chance to live like you would die. There was Bill from Beaufort, Georgia, working his way in gold. With his alligator boots and a platinum card, he tried to find my love out of one soul. Tried, but he wasn't able. 'Cause I can't express, I can't help it. I got a real short temper and you in my ears. I'm gonna kick you to the curb in my iron shoes. You can't handle it. Shouldn't play with fire, but you
All right, a big virtual round of applause for Jessica Lynn Witty and Liz Gregory for that showcase. Again, remember GregoryTalentandProductions.com if you want to get a hold of Liz to book the band. To wrap up again, we've got a few reminders. December 17th at 7 p.m. we're going to start our new happy hour option, and that's basically just an opportunity for everyone to get together and visit with no true agenda. And Brad Brumman is going to be hosting that for us. Our next formal educational session will be Tuesday, January 19th at 7 p.m. And that is going to be contracts following a pandemic. What changes have been made? Continue to check on Facebook and your emails, junk, and spam folders for upcoming information regarding the association. I know Tara is always looking for sponsors and for people to participate. A big thanks to Joel and Larry from Creative Community Promotions for sponsoring tonight's event. And again, a big thanks to Peggy and Scott for some great information and a great educational session, hopefully that you all enjoyed. Thanks again, and enjoy your evening. Scott's got his hand up. Scott, would you like to make a comment?
I didn't mean to do that.
So some of us have gotten better with technology, but some maybe are still lagging a little. See, now he's muted, so I can make fun of him. No, thanks everyone. It was great seeing all of your faces virtually, if that's the best that we can do, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and hopefully we'll see you all in a couple weeks here. So take care.
Thanks, everyone.